Welcome to the La Virtual F1 World Touring Car Championship. We are at round 2 at Pau in France. And this is a glorious day, blue skies all around in R Factor 2. And the drivers are just getting geared up for the qualifying session. We will have qualifying from 11 o'clock. And then we will have a little warm-up before race 1 at past. So, thank you for joining us. We are streaming live on Twitch. And this is the first live stream of the World Touring Car Championship. You may have seen the highlights from the last round. Unfortunately, that couldn't be live streamed, but we are hoping to live stream the rest. If you are here, feel free to get involved in the comments, and we will shortly get on board with some of the drivers to see what they're at in terms of pace. We do have a decent lineup of drivers, quite a few teams with 3 drivers in each. So we have Team Honda Victory, NG Recab, The Outcasts, Kamikaze Racing, Sad Bombs by GSR Racing, Hyperion Esports, Fuenlabrada Racing Team, Cheetah Racing Team, HLZ Racing, and Luffield Lunatics. And you will have to bear with me with some of the pronunciations. There's a large number of Spanish drivers, and while I did live out there for a short while, I didn't quite get the accent down, but I will do my best. So, as we are here at Pau, we have Charles broadcasting for me. I am your commentator, Alexander Rhodes, and at the moment, we're just waiting for the start of qualifying. That should be in about 3 minutes' time. So you still have a minute to grab yourself some water, grab yourself some snacks. And yeah, we're about to see some fantastic racing unfold. As we're just looking at the circuit map there, you can see that there are some very high-speed sections and some heavy braking points into some very tight corners as well. And then we also have some very technical, very curly areas where, of course, if you are 2 or 3 wide, that is going to slow you down a lot. So yeah, I'm not expecting any overtaking in there, although this is touring cars. Anything can happen, and anything usually does happen. So let's be aware for that. But I am more expecting the majority of overtakes to happen in the deep braking zones and tight corners. If you've ever seen Kobayashi at Suzuka, it will be a lot of that, I would imagine. But then the season opener was Sebring, and we saw cars overtaking everywhere, into chicanes, into corners. It was an absolute delight to watch all the racing at Sebring. Even though we couldn't get a live stream, the highlights were still absolutely glorious. So if you watch YouTube, go find League of Virtual F1 on YouTube. Give that a watch after this stream. And yeah, this is shaping up to be a brilliant championship from these drivers. A fantastic display of racecraft. Some very brave guys going down the inside of people, trying to hold it around the outside. It's all on. It's all on. I think there's no quarter given in these cars. They're not single-seaters. You can get away with a little bit of rubbing, a little bit of a push here and there. So yeah, it's going to be very exciting, especially in the opening laps here. As you've probably guessed, that even though there's a few high-speed sections, that just means the car behind gets a tow. And of course, that means you're going to have to defend if you're ahead, or if you're behind, you're going to have to find a way around. So it is going to be action start to finish. And we saw that at Sebring. But we're just hoping that, despite the action, we keep some clean races going, and we should be heading into qualifying any second now. As we do hit 11 o'clock, we're just waiting for the session to switch over. And while we're waiting for that, I can tell you that the first race will be 17 laps. We have a second race afterwards. That should start at about 5 to 12. And again, that will be 17 laps again. And then we'll have a short little ad break once that's over before we get underway with the podium interviews. And then after that, we'll do some other post-race chats, see if there's anybody who is worth talking to, any interesting developments while they're racing. We may even get a few of the organisers in to have a chat and see what they're thinking to this championship, because it's the first time they've done a touring car championship on R Factor 2. So this is new ground for the organisers. Probably not for the drivers. As a driver myself, I know that we tend to flick around different communities and get involved in whatever racing tends to interest us most. There may be a few that have come across solely from single-seater racing. I know that if you're interested in single-seater racing, it's pretty much all you do. Same as people who are really interested in GT racing, and it's all they do. Occasionally, we do swap over to a different style of car, a different category, and it's usually a big learning curve. It's always a big learning curve. That said, the quality of driving that was out at Sebring, I don't think there's anybody at the bottom of that learning curve, so that is definitely good. So if you are here with us on Twitch, feel free to say hi. I will give you shout outs throughout the stream. I will engage with you. As we are now just flicking into qualifying, I believe. Here we go then. There we go, 15 minutes counting down. And we're just getting on board with a couple of drivers coming straight out into their session. And we have car 28, that's Fenno, just starting his outlap as well. So it will take him a couple of minutes to get around the circuit out of the pits, just warm the tyres up, make sure the brakes are stabilised. And from there, we will see some hot laps, hopefully some quick ones, but you never know. It's always a lot of pressure when you're trying to get down that perfect lap. You've got other cars around that you've got to deal with. As we're watching Shan Adamwich and Ivan, that kamikaze livery is very striking and very difficult to miss. And again, there's a few other cars around just trying to find their own bit of space, trying to follow faster drivers, maybe see where they're losing time, where they can gain. And as you can see, it is a very tight circuit. There is not a lot of room for error. It's very, very similar to Macau. If you've ever seen Macau, yeah, you make a mistake, you're in a barrier. There's no runoff, no grass, no gravel. As you can see, very wide corners, very fast. And as we're on the brakes here into a tight right-hander, you've got a nasty curb on the inside, which will unsettle the car. And as you've just seen, if you do go wide, there's a barrier waiting to collect you. And that's always, always in the back of your mind as you're trying to navigate these corners. As you're just contacting the curb on the inside there. Again, it is so, so easy to do. You have to be millimeter perfect if you're going to use all of the track at a circuit like this. So, Ivano, just coming round. No time on the board at the moment. And as we're just seeing this nice sweeping right-hand corner before we get a little bit on the brakes for this tight and twisty section. And again, this is what I was talking about. It gets very tight and twisty. There's a lot of elevation changes. Very easy to unsettle the car. And even though it is tighter and twisty and there's more corners here, there and everywhere, there's still barriers there as we get very close to that left-hand barrier. But we're still on the throttle as we've got two purple sectors naturally, because we are looking for the first times to be set. As Ivan takes provisional pole, then that's taken straight back off by Shuf, and then Fenno is now sat on pole for the moment, but Rodriguez goes a little bit faster, and that is quite a bit faster, 2.5 tenths. That's quite a lot in terms of touring cars. So that is the time to beat 1:11.803. Can anybody do it? Moretti is on a lap. He's been purple in sector 1, but not quite enough. So Moretti takes 4th place. Wtcc is in 3rd. So all changes at the moment, but we expect this. There's nearly 12 minutes left on the clock. They will be going for a second lap to try and improve, correct mistakes they may have made in that first lap. As we're now on board with Wtcc with a 1:11.803 to beat. Is green in sector 1, but then he's in the barrier and back to the pits. So again, Aceite, that kamikaze livery, again, you're never going to miss that. And the Fuenlabrada blue and yellow, again, that's a very easy livery to spot anywhere in the pack. I assume that these two liveries, you will be able to spot them from miles away. So Aceite taking a lot of the curb there, unsettling the car a bit and into the barrier, so that's not going to be a quick lap. Unfortunately, he was green in sector 1 as well, so that's a bit of a shame for Aceite. Now we're looking at Carlos Fenno, who is on pole. So there has been a faster lap as Cabeza Speed in the Cheetah car just makes a little mistake, and it's so easy to do. These curbs are brutal. They are pedestrian curbs that you would normally walk on. Just because some of them are painted red and white doesn't make a difference. They are still massive. So, as I mentioned, Fenno is on a 1:11.720. That's the time you've got to beat if you want pole position. As we're seeing some drivers on outlaps now, some drivers still in the pits. There are some drivers who haven't set a lap yet. So we're just waiting for them to come around and get a time on the board. Of course, further down in the field, with the nature of this circuit, I would expect that those who are expecting to start near the back might not want to put a lap in, just because if they can hang at the back and avoid all the incidents, they might gain a few positions if there is an incident into the first few corners. Of course, with this being a community-held event and not a public event, that's far less likely to happen, but it's something you see quite often on platforms like iRacing or Assetto Corsa. A lot of people do prefer to stay out of trouble on those first opening laps, especially when you have a 17-lap race. You know, it's not about turn 1, it's not about the first lap, unless you are at the front, in which case, you've got to get your head down. You've got to make sure that you're the first person into the first corner, and then you've got to go and try and leave everybody behind, because otherwise you're under a serious amount of pressure for the entire race, and that takes a lot of effort, and it also causes a lot of sweat as well. So the drivers will be keen to do their best up front. We're not seeing anybody challenging Fenno at the moment, but we have Robin Schoof on a green sector, so that's a personal best from himself. Of course, it's not purple, which means it's not faster than Fenno at the moment, but Sector 2 could tell a different story. And of course, there's a third sector as well, so even if Sector 2 is still green, there's still a chance that Schoof could end up on pole, but we're seeing one of the Fuenlabrada cars just ahead in this tight and twisty section. This might hold Robin up, and Robin might want to go past as he's just given a little bit of space on the inside there. Has that held him up? It does seem to have done, as he's gone yellow in sector 2. Almost 4/10 down. But will he get a chance for a second flying lap? We will see. 8.5 minutes on the clock now as we switch to Cabeza Speed, who's quite wide into the corner there. Cheetah Racing Team again. Cabeza Speed is slower in that second sector. Nearly 6/10 off where he needs to be to claim a pole position. And we're not seeing much change at the top end of the leaderboard. Aceite is in third, 4/10 back from Fenno, as Marite and Josete are taking 4th and 5th. So we are changing a little bit sort of behind the top 3, but there's not much happening up at the front. As we're on board with Fran Vinal now in the Fuenlabrada. I will try and practice these pronunciations, guys, and see if I can get better as the season goes on. As we see a car just in the barrier there waiting for a moment to turn himself around. So we've got purple in sector 1, almost a 10th better than Fenno. As we're just coming around to sector 2, so that's 2/10 back from Fenno, and as he just clouts the barrier there, that's going to slow him down quite a lot into this long straight. Thinks better of it, reset and go again. So Danny now is purple in sector 2. Personal best in sector 1 as he just resets back to the pits. Why did he reset back to the pits? It was purple in sector 2, Danny. So Fenno now again purple in sector 1. 0.021. That is 200ths and 1,000th, and purple in sector 2 as well by almost 2/10. So there's definitely time on the board for a faster pole position. And Fenno fancies his chances of going and getting that. So the Sad Bombers GSXR Racing as Fenno jumps into the pits. Why did he jump into the pits? That was a faster lap. He should have definitely claimed that, especially when Rodriguez is less than a tenth off of the pole lap. Danny is going slow, trying to let a driver disappear up the road. There's another car just alongside him there. Not quite sure what happened, but Danny resets. There's 6 minutes left on the clock, so definitely enough time for another lap. Again, your out lap might take 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes, depending on how you warm the tyres and get the car prepared. And then it's a minute for your lap. So we're looking at 3 minutes most each lap, so they might get another 2 flying laps, if they are lucky. As we see, Wtcc, again, these pronunciations, I am sorry, guys. Please get in touch and tell me how it's supposed to be said. But the HLZ racing driver is better in Sector 1, but worse in Sector 2. But he might be setting himself up for another flying lap. You can go from one flying lap into the next if you desire. That's my preferred way of doing things, just get into a rhythm, find a flow. But a lot of these drivers opting to go straight back to the pits, reset the car and the fuel load, and then disappear for an out lap and a flying lap again. So 5 minutes left on the clock. Rodriguez now has gone pole. 1:11.625. Less than a tenth faster than Fenno. If Fenno had banked that lap, who knows? But Aceite still sits in third place and is 5.5 tenths back from the front too. So that goes to show you that these Sad Bombers GSR Racing, yeah, they mean business today. They really mean business. The striking blue and orange making its way around another outlap. Can Rodriguez find any more time? Is there any more time on the table? Can anybody find it? As we're just looking at the leaderboard. Some changes further down now as Johnny just goes ahead of Wtcc. And we've got a few drivers fairly close in the midfield as well. 6th down to 10th is all very, very close. And then you have 13th, 14th and 15th. Once again, a little bit of space between these guys, but when you're that far back in the pack and you've got some battles to contend with, that sort of gap won't mean much at all. Whereas up front, you've got 1st down to 5th, all under a second between them. And the first 2 drivers, very little time all. As we're seeing, Fenno now is purple in the 2nd sector. And is he purple in the 3rd? He is. So that puts Fenno back on pole by an almighty 10th and a quarter. So just tapping the barrier there as he comes around to finish that flying lap. Danny now is green in 2 sectors. What is he in the 3rd sector? It's not enough for pole, but it does put him all the way up into 3rd place. Less than half a second to the pole now. That bumps Aceite down into 4th place. But can he come back? Can Aceite find any more time out there? As I've mentioned, it's difficult. It is really hard. Those curbs are brutal. Those barriers are so close to the exits and entries. Some of them even on apexes, as we've seen Wtcc getting the car onto wheels. I know that these front wheel cars like to lift a wheel. Usually it's only the one wheel though. So, Wtcc for the Cheetah Racing team, what can he do? He's yellow in the 2nd sector. A second down, so he chooses to go back to the pits and maybe have another go. There may be time, 2 minutes and 3/4 left on the clock. So if you're lucky, you'll have time for an hour lap and a flying lap. But you need to find space. And that's not what these guys have got right now. Everybody is very close together as they go around the outlap. They want to find some space, get some clean air, where they can focus on their own lap rather than trying to avoid what's going on ahead or trying to defend from behind. Because of course you have to remember that if you're side by side with someone, if you're overtaking, if you're defending, if you're getting overtaken, it does slow you down. There's no way to go faster when you're racing other people. So, a few people on their outlaps. Can Rodriguez come back for pole? OZHD now goes ahead of Aceite. So he takes 5th place, bumping Aceite down into 6th. Again, it was only a moment ago that Aceite was in 3rd place, which is now held by Moretti from Danny 01 as well. But the story is that we've got the Sabomba GSR Racing in first and second at the moment, and 7th place as well. So this could be a very good score for the team if they manage to convert this wonderful position they've got. This is providing nobody takes that off them. And as you see, coming around towards the end of their outlap, two cars collide, just not enough space to get a flying lap done. As we see Cabeza Speed heading back out onto circuit, I'm not sure they'll get around the outlap to start the next flying lap. But Pablos continues on. Hyperion Esports in that wonderful DS car with the striking black and white livery. Is it black? Is it blue? I'm not sure. It may be a very dark blue. But as the car comes round, currently sat in 9th place for the number 11 driver, as he's taking some very nice lines around this Pau circuit. And Pau is a wonderful place to... Pau is a wonderful place to visit if you've never been. I recommend going. So, where is Shoof? Here we are. So we've done 2 sectors, yellow in the second sector, but it's not by a lot. So Shoof is currently in 11th place. This could bump him all the way up the field to near the front. And did he improve? 11.501? Not really, that's a shame. But he's got time for another one if he's got enough fuel in the car. As we're seeing Rodriguez purple in sector 1. What are we going to be for sector 2? We're coming around to that marker now as he just collects a curb, keeps it steady, tries to bounce the car onto wheels, collects some of the apex, nice and collected. Coming around this right-hand side, tyre smoke coming away from the tortured tyres. And we see sector 2 faster again. So 1/10 in sector 1, half a tenth in sector 2, clouts the barrier on the entry into the 3rd sector there. Is that going to take all the time away as he's wiggling the car? No, unfortunately, it is 2nd place for Rodriguez. I think he kind of knew when he clouted the barrier there, but valiant effort nonetheless. And as you did hear from Charles there, that Shoof did a very good 1st sector. Unfortunately, that all disappeared in the 2nd sector. So it looks as though most of the cars are now returning to the pits. I don't know whether we still have Ivan or Patrix still on circuit setting their laps. They're still white numbers. Everybody in the grey numbers will be now in the pits, but it looks like it is Fenno on pole as Ivan returns to the pits, and one final car out on circuit at the moment, and that is your qualifying session over. So, chat, Twitch, what do you think to that? What is this looking like to you? To me, this is looking like an extremely tight race up at the top. And from 3rd down to 10th, this could be anybody's game. As you've seen, the track is very, very tight, very close together. There's not much room to put a foot outside the optimal line. If you are overtaking, if you are defending, you've got to think about these barriers, especially if you're the person on the outside. This is going to be very, very exciting as we will be heading into the warm-up in about 6 minutes. And I'm not sure whether Charles wants to run an ad. Charles, would you like to run an ad? Okay, guys, we will see you in just a moment. Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for sticking around. We are heading into the first race of the day. Again, this is round 2 of the World Touring Car Championship for Virtual F1. We're here at Pau. We've got 17 laps to do, and qualifying was very, very exciting. So the drivers will be going around for a warm-up lap and then straight onto a standing start. We will run a little intro and then we'll be back with you for the formation. So here we are then, as the drivers just come around the warm-up lap or formation lap, whichever term you prefer. Again, we have 17 laps to complete after the start, and this is your standing order. We have Cabeza Speed from Pablos, Ivan and Reynald Edo in 4th, and then in 5th place, as it flicks over, we will have Aceite, followed by Joseta HD, Danny in 7th, and Moretta in 8th place for Kamikaze Racing Team. And then in 9th place, we have Rodriguez, followed by Carlos Feno, so top 10 reverse. Schuf in 11th with Vinal in 12th. And then in 13th place, we have Johnny for Team Honda, Shant Aramwich in 14th, 15th is Munskaski, Patrick's in 16th place. And then we have Baroni taking up the final position in 17th for Team Honda victory. So as you've just seen there, top 10 cars reversed. So yeah, this is going to be a very difficult race for the first few laps as the faster drivers are coming through. There's not much space. There's not much room for errors. And every little battle slows you down quite a lot at a circuit like this. But the cars are lining up on the grid. They've done what they can to get some heat into the tyres, into the brakes, trying not to overheat the engine, keeping the revs nice and low until we start to see some lights on the gantry. As we see the final grid spot just being filled there by car 29, David Baroni. Now we're looking at the front now. Cabeza Speed alongside Pablos, and away they go. And we're away, long run into the first little section as we're seeing cars just squeezed out. There's not enough room for 3 wide there as we see an almighty incident behind, and that's half of the field taken out at the first corner as we're seeing the Fuenlabrada car just reversing out of harm's way and a few of the cars trying to get themselves going. There's cars still stopped, cars everywhere. This is unfortunate for most of them, but they will get going. They will manage to get some laps done as we're seeing the Honda there just holding back. There may be damage to that car. Let's hope they get going again. But out in front, we have Ivan leading the race now from Pablos, and then Reynaldo Edo in 3rd place on the live timing. We are looking, if I can see the number quite quickly, we're looking at car number 19. So that is indeed the Kamikaze car of Ivan. And we can see that there's not much of a gap behind us. We're seeing the 2 Bombers cars just side by side there between the barriers. Rodriguez and, of course, Feno trying to say, I'm the faster driver. You need to let me get some ground on these drivers. As now the 11 car of Pablos is lining Ivan up, looking for a switchback move there. Doesn't quite get that done. But on the brakes now, Sector 1, and Pablo, Ivan's gone into the barrier. This is going to cost him. This is going to cost him big. So Pablos might get that position. But then, as well as that, we have Reynald Edo there. He could gain a position if they touch, and they do touch ever so slightly. But it's not enough for the cars behind to come through. Oh, and then around goes Ivan. They're all in the barrier. So all 5 cars there, 6 cars involved, as Ivan's going to have to reverse to get that car going again. There's not much space for him to turn the car around, and all of these cars will continue streaming through as we're seeing cars having to go left, right. Which way do you go? There's a car all the way across the track. There's 2 Kamikaze team cars into the side of each other. That is a horrendous position to be in. Meanwhile, up front, Carlos Feno, in what position is he in? He's in 5th place at the moment. So still quite a lot of work to do as Johnny, car number 13, has had a coming together with Aceite, who's now dropping down through the field in 17th place. After such a brilliant qualifying session, he'll be disappointed, but there will still be time to make places and try and make his way up. So as we see the leaderboard on the left of your screen at the moment, we just see another touch there, just up ahead. So Edo manages to get past Pablos, and Rodriguez is passed as well. Pablos has lost a few places there, so that might have stalled the car, cost him quite a lot of time there. So your current standings on lap 3, we've got Rodriguez up ahead of Reynaldo Edo. Moretta in 3rd with Feno in 4th. Pablos is dropped all the way down into 5th after challenging for the lead in the early laps. And then you have Cabeza Speed in 6th from Aramwich, Danny in 8th, Shoof in 9th, Josete HD in 10th, with Smunkaski in 11th, Patrix in 12th, Johnny in 13th, Baroni in 14th, Vinal is down in 15th, Ivan is 16th, and Asiete is all the way at the back of the field at the moment in 17th. What is going to change? What is going to change? We're seeing that Rodriguez is pulling an almighty gap over his teammate Edo at the moment for the Sad Bombs GSR racing team. And the view from the front of the card on the roof cam does really show how much of a gap that is. That is almighty. 1.5 seconds now separates these two. And it's a very similar gap back to Moretti in 3rd place. And then from 3rd down to Fenno, it's only 6/10. So that might be a battle that comes into play very, very shortly, as Fenno is really coming for Moretti. That gap is dropping each corner. And then a little bit further back, we don't have too many cars bunched up together, but there are some small battles happening. For 9th place, we have Shoof and Huzet HD. For 9th and 10th, Johnny and Vinal have a little battle there. Oh, sorry, Baroni and Vinal. But yeah, Huzeta HD, this is the view from the roof cam looking at the back of Robin Shoof. Which car is going to end up with the 10th place? Or can they go further? Can they go further up the order? Or will anybody from behind come to challenge? This is a long way to go before any of this is decided, but right now, Huzeta wants to make some places up. So we're just seeing some changes there. Edo seems to have made a mistake or disconnected. We're not seeing him on track at the moment. Cabeza Speed, Edo. Where is Edo? What has happened to Edo? We're hoping this is not a disconnect, as he's dropping through the order as drivers come past his last known position on circuit. This will be disappointing. Edo had a fantastic race, but he's back in the lead. He's back in the lead, but the cameras still haven't picked him up. This is unfortunate, but this is the problem with virtual racing. Sometimes dropouts and connection issues can cause a few problems. So we're on board now with one of the Kamikaze racing team cars. I'm not sure which one at the moment. It could be Moretti. It is indeed Moretti. So you can't see the number from this view. I do apologize for taking a while to get that. But Moretti is trying to chase down Rodriguez, who's just up ahead there, turning around the right-hander. Again, very tight corner as this drops away quite a lot. You've got to keep the car very, very balanced. Otherwise, one side or the other will snap and lose traction. So just be careful not to hit that barrier on the left. We've seen a lot of drivers do that. So Edo has disconnected, unfortunately. I've been told by the stream manager, unfortunately, Edo has DNF'd, do not finish, which means, unfortunately, that podium position's gone. And we're not going to see him for the rest of the race. That is a real disappointment, and we really do feel for him. But hopefully in race 2 he can come back stronger, as we now have Rodriguez promoted into 1st place. It didn't take him long to get there, to be fair. After all the carnage that we saw at the start of this race, I thought it might take a lot longer for the fastest qualifiers to get all the way up to the front. But we're seeing that Rodriguez is now in 1st. Baroni's DNF'd as well. So unfortunately, we've got a Honda out, and we've got the Fuenlabrada out. So this is really bad news for those drivers. Unfortunately, it does happen, but we hope that in race 2 they come back stronger, as Moretti just clouts the barrier there on the exit. It will slow him down the straight, but it's not much of a straight, as we're seeing a lot more of Rodriguez now, but the gap is still around about 2.5-3 seconds. I'm just wondering whether Moretti's gaining some tenths in some sectors and then losing in a few others, as the gap just extends a little bit. And we see Fenno. Fenno's got right onto the back of Moretti now. Right onto the back. So Carlos Fenno for Sad Bombs GSR. He's going to be looking for a place to overtake. He's just using the barrier to help slow down that little bit faster. That's an old karting move. Help you slow down quite a bit, as the stream seems to have paused, but not to worry, we are back. And yeah, so the idea is to keep the car as straight as possible, use the barrier to scrub some speed, lose a little bit of paint as well, but paint's less important than winning, so you do what you must, as we're looking from Carlos Fenno's point of view here. What an amazing seat to be in, looking at the back of that Kamikaze Racing team. Car from Moretti just trying to find a little bit of space to get through. He thinks about the switch back there. Not quite enough, but it does unsettle Moretti enough to get on the outside. Can he hold it around the outside, though? Those tyre barriers are very inviting to the car when you're trying to go around the outside there, but he's still alongside. Can he make a dive to get this job done? That chicane's not an overtaking place, although I'm sure we'll see it eventually. But Fenno hasn't found the place on track to get through. But he's just going through the pits now. He's having to serve a penalty that is most likely either contact or track limits. I'm not sure which is unfortunate. That battle was absolutely fantastic up to that point, but I am sure it will not take Fenno long to get back up to speed. As you see, Cabeza Speed now just taking an opportunity to fly past Fenno and chase down Moretti. So that's cost Fenno about 15 seconds to go through that drive-through. That's a lot of circuit time, and when you've not got an entire race to catch up, we could be looking at the end of the race before Fenno gets back on to either car. Well, Cabeza Speed's only a few seconds up the road. You can see, what we're talking, 3-4 seconds to get to Cabeza Speed, and then Moretti again. That's going to be the big ask. So Zmunkaski is now looking at the back of a Fuenlabrada car, and this is the battle for 9th. So Wtcc HD didn't quite catch up to Shuf. Shuf's kind of darted off into the distance, but Wtcc HD now under attack. Zmunkaski is trying to think about how fast he's catching, where he's going to make the move. Will there be space given? Will the barriers bite? It is going to be an interesting few laps. Nonetheless, as we've seen, Wtcc HD really struggling for traction on the curbs there. Maybe the car set up a little bit too hard. Maybe it's throwing him off. That could allow Zmunkaski to catch right up in these tight and twisty sections, especially over this little chicane here where we see a lot of people in that wall, but not for these guys. Not right now. And it's a long straight now. So as soon as Zmunkaski can catch up to that toe, you can see how much speed they're gaining down this straight. It's a very, very long run into this first heavy braking zone. And then this corner, again, it darts uphill as soon as you get towards the apex, and that does unsettle the car. So if Wtcc HD feels a little bit too much pressure, if he starts to get a bit hot under the collar, he's going to start making mistakes, and that could be Zmunkaski's plan to help him catch up that little bit faster. But as we're seeing, the gap has fallen a bit. It's 2.5 seconds. It was a little bit closer than that before. So maybe Wtcc HD made a mistake. Maybe Zmunkaski closed right up. But Zmunkaski might just be getting dropped now. As we're seeing, the gap has come down quite a bit. So Wtcc HD may be a little bit slower in this first sector. Maybe that's Zmunkaski's strength. As we're seeing, oh, I thought that was going to be the barrier there. As he comes very, very wide out of that corner. As we're looking at Cabeza Speed being chased by Carlos Fenno now. There is not much time between them. As we're seeing Fenno just slide past around the outside. And Cabeza Speed gives him space, says, yeah, I can't do anything against that except go really slow. So the chance for Fenno to catch Moretti is on. Cabeza Speed's going to try and pick up a toe, try and find some pace from Fenno, and if he finds it and gets to go on the attack, we might see these two change places again, but it doesn't look like it. The gap's already well over a second and approaching a second and a half, and Fenno is gone. He is gone. He's sent it down the road, chasing Moretti. Is like, right, second place. I want that back. I'm going for it, and he is just gone. So Cabeza Speed in 4th place. That looks like that might stay unless Pablos can catch back up. We're looking at Ivan chasing a teammate. Sorry, we're on board with Esite. So Ivan is getting chased by his teammate at the moment. So this is a gap of about a second. As we're seeing a slight lock up there from Ivan. And you know, it's teammates, so you would expect this to be fairer racing, but it's touring cars. We don't get that, as we're seeing a car in the barrier there, unfortunately. Was that Shuf? Shuf and Zmanski have DNF'd. There wasn't contact there, was there? Surely. That is unfortunate. That could have been a really good battle had that have closed up and would have seen some of that without incident. But unfortunately, it's touring cars. It all happens, and anything that can happen will happen. But we're looking at Aceite chasing down Ivan. We saw Aceite doing a very good qualifying time. He's a little bit further back than where he would want to be right now. So chasing his teammate, we're seeing Vinal in the distance there as well, as these cars are closing up to each other now after that nasty incident that we saw at the first corner when two cars came across each other as a third car was trying to squeeze between them. There was obviously no space for that and it all went pear-shaped. But Vinal is being chased by Ivan. Ivan is being chased by Aceite, as we're seeing Aceite being very smooth, very calm, and making a lot of ground up to his teammate right now. You can see the back of the car getting bigger and bigger as it gets closer and closer, and we have 5 laps remaining. So the pressure is on. Again, Vinal will feel these two closing up. Ivan will feel Asita breathing down the back of his neck because he can see him all over his mirrors right now. And Ivano scores a penalty, so that's track limits. Absolutely, that is such a shame. So that means that Ivano's going to have to go through pit lane now, which gives that place to Asite. I don't think that anybody else will be coming back through. Edo is back on track, but obviously a lap down. So yeah, that's going to put Ivan back into last place. And with a 15-second cost, I don't think Ivan's going to be able to catch back up to anybody, as Asite now slows down. Was that to allow Ivan back through? So that is the oddest thing I have ever seen. That is teammate respect through and through. Asite wants to do this on circuit. He doesn't want to take advantage of someone with a penalty, so he's just going for it. He's allowed his teammate back through and he's going for it. So we're going to get some action from these two by the end of the race. Again, we're on lap 13. There are 17 laps in this first race. Race 2 is 21 laps, so it is a much longer race. You might say it's only a few laps difference. It makes a big difference when you're getting hot and sweaty. It's the middle of summer. You know, these drivers will be sweating buckets right now. It is so difficult to be consistent, to be clean, to be smooth, and to feel what the car is doing. Because let's remember, not everybody's going to be on a Jimmy Broadbent style direct drive wheel that tells you everything about what the car's doing. You've got to be so tuned into what your eyes are seeing, what your ears are hearing. It takes a lot of brain energy. So these guys will be so fatigued by the end of that second race. Even though it's only 21 laps after a 17-lap race, it is so difficult to do. As we're seeing a few little lockups now ahead. Ivan is just locking the wheels ever so slightly. And we do know that when he was under pressure, he did make that mistake to gain that penalty. But I don't know whether Asite is going to make enough ground up now. We're on lap 14 out of 17. Is there going to be time? Are we going to see this culminate in an almighty battle at the end of this race? Meanwhile, up ahead, Rodriguez has stretched that gap to 10 seconds now. Fenno, however, is closing up to Moretti now. There's less than 2 seconds between. Oh, that's just stretched a little bit, so I don't know whether Fenno's made a mistake. So there's going to be a battle there. Let's face it, there's going to be a battle there. As we're seeing alerts on screen, social media, go follow League of Virtual F1 on social media if you haven't already. Get involved with the chat on Twitch. We will shout you out between races. We will have a chat to you. As we're seeing, this is closing up now. So Asite has put the hammer down. Ivan's made a couple of lockups. He's made a few mistakes. These two are getting quite close indeed. So we might just see an almighty scrap for this 10th place position. As Asite is now showing 10th and Ivan's showing 11th. I'm not sure what's happened there. I'm sure I'm seeing different things on screen, but that's okay because I'm trying to keep an eye on the gap ahead. Moretti in second, 11 seconds back from Rodriguez, and Fenno 9 seconds back behind Moretti. 2 laps. I don't know whether that's going to happen. I don't know. They were getting almightily close a little while ago. Pablos is also close to Cabeza speed as we just jump on board with Pablos now. And a little bit further back, you've got Vinal, which is closing to the back of Urumrich, but it's not quite there yet. So Pablos in 5th place, Cabeza Speed in 4th place. You saw him jump into that 3rd spot after Fenno had to take the penalty. Again, stunning race from Cabeza Speed. He's not really put a foot wrong, but he's not really had the pace to challenge the front at this stage of the day, as we're seeing a lot of tyre smoke, obviously putting on a lot of lock to keep that Honda in the corner, as Pablos gains a lot of ground over that tricky section of corners. And that section of corners is where people are picking up penalties. So you've got to be careful with track limits there, as we're seeing Pablos is really closing up to the back of Cabeza Speed now. Pablos was, of course, involved earlier on with the turn 1 disaster, and it was a bit of a disaster. I don't think it was anyone at fault. It was just cars trying to find space that didn't exist. And of course, when you get away from the line, you want to find all that space. As Pablo's closes right up, I thought that was going to be disaster. That is obviously a missed braking point or a lockup. Unfortunately, yeah, that sent Cabeza Speed down the road. Pablos has lost a little bit of time there, but that's not to say he can't get it back. We're on lap 16. We've got lap 17 to do yet, folks. It could all close up again, and we did see the closing rate of Pablos was almighty down that straight. But can he take that 4th place? We saw him do quite a good qualifying session. Cabeza Speed wasn't slow either. And again, as you see, almighty smoke coming off of that Honda. That front left tyre will be absolutely boiled. And will that affect Cabeza Speed as we go through this tricky section of corners? Again, he's sort of slow there. Pablos makes up quite a lot of ground as we come across to the chicane now, where everybody's been putting it in that barrier on the left, probably because they've got a cooked front left. But Pablos is definitely in the tow here. He's definitely in the tow. He's definitely looking at turn 1 for another overtaking opportunity. If he can go as deep on the brakes again, but find space on the inside, it could be a position. He doesn't lock up. He keeps it nice and neat. He's right there now on the back of Cabeza Speed. This is lap 17. This is the final lap, the last opportunity that you have. As we're seeing a little further back, Vinal is right on the back of Adam Witch as well. So there's 2 battles on circuit right now. We're with Pablos and Cabeza Speed for 4th place, as Vinal and Aaron Witch just swap places. Aaron Witch has made a mistake as he has got past. Unfortunately, Ivan hasn't got past, so Adam Witch obviously making a mistake there, putting an end to that battle. But this battle, which is raging, as we're seeing all that smoke again, as we come across to the tight twisty section, being careful not to pick up a penalty. Pablos is a lot closer now, as we're seeing Rodriguez takes your first victory. We're going to have to wait to see how that battle ends, because Moretti is going to come across in 2nd place, followed by Fenno in 3rd, as we're seeing Pablos now. This is the section where he gained all the time. He's in the tow. It's a drag race down to the line here. Is it going to be Cabeza Speed just takes it. Just takes it. That was so close at the end. But props to Rodriguez. After all that happened in that first lap, Rodriguez comes across the line to take your first win of the day, race 1 at round 2 in Po, followed by Moretti in 2nd, with Fenno in 3rd, doing all he could to try and catch back up. Cabeza Speed in 4th after that almighty battle, with Pablos just in 5th. Danny in 6th place, Jose THD in 7th. Vinal promoted to 8th after Adam Witch got it wrong. Acite also promoted into 9th, and then Adam Witch in 10th, with Ivan in 11th. So I'm not sure if Ivan made a mistake that I missed there. Edo did manage to get reconnected and finish in 11th. Unfortunately, a long way from where he would have finished if he didn't disconnect. Unfortunately, Shuv, Zmunkaski, Patrick, Johnny, Baroni, and of course, Fenno all DNF. I'm not sure if Fenno didn't DNF. I'm not sure why it's showing me that Fenno DNF'd. But that is your race 1. So we are going to take a moment before we get into race 2. Again, this is a 21 lap race. So this is not like the first race where, you have an almighty scrap for that first lap or so, and then you settle into your position and you try to attack, or you try to defend, or you just try and get away. Race 2 is a lot harder. There's a lot more scope for mistakes. So you can't just go banzai for the first few laps. You've got to look after the car any damage you pick up, you're going to take with you for a long, long time. And, you know, even though it's not many laps difference, but it hurts. You know, your arms are tired from 17 laps already. If you've got your force feedback turned right up, your eyes are tired from focusing so hard on where your turning points are, your braking points. Your ears are tired. And I missed that the broadcaster just said something while I was talking, so I didn't hear that, Charles. Okay, there we go. So we're into the next session as we're just waiting for some action to happen here. But Twitch, if you're there, just give us a shout. Tell us what you thought about that. That was very exciting for a lot of that. It was unfortunate to see that collision in the first race, but I think coming back through the field afterwards, there was a lot of excitement here, there, and everywhere. And again, the circuit's so tight. We did see that bite. We did see that cause issues for a few drivers. On any other circuit, if they'd have outbraked themselves, they could have run a little bit wide, but not here. So here we have the interviews. As we're not grabbing a driver, I think we're looking at the wrong screen here. Okay, so we're in preview mode. Okay, so I'm being made aware from the broadcaster that I'm seeing something a little bit different to what you're seeing, but that's fine. I can I can deal with that at the moment. But we have less than 4 minutes left until the next session now. Um, Thoughts and opinions. That was tough for the drivers. I feel for the drivers there. Um, yeah, the race one disaster. There's going to be a few unhappy people going into race two, thinking that they're out of position, but it is all to play for. Um, as we're seeing a driver just going to go around for a few laps, make sure that the muscle memory doesn't fade in between this session and the next session. 88 is Fran Vinal, of course. You know, it's one of those things where between sessions you don't want to forget everything you've learned, but at the same time you don't want to give your muscles fatigue and you don't want to get to that point where you're over practiced. But they will go do a lap or two just to get settled before the next session starts. So we're going to have a look at a little replay if we can. Here we go then. So this is the incident. Of course, a lot of cars involved there. As we see, there's one of the Formula Brada teams sideways, one of the Kamikaze cars sideways, as each driver has to wait for the track to clear before they can get going again. And this costs you a lot of time. One of the Honda cars there looking like they have a bit of damage. So yeah, for all these cars to get back into a position where they're having scraps, it's very well done. You know, it takes a lot of effort to make ground up on faster drivers, and it takes a lot of mental strength to put that kind of an incident in the back of your mind and just focus on what there is still to play for. So we will see what happens in race two. Obviously, they don't want the same thing to happen. They're going to be aware of what did just happen and try and avoid it. I can't see anybody going three wide and squeezing each other towards that first braking zone. But it is what it is. You might see some drama again. You might not. It's touring cars. I will say it over and over again. Anything can happen with these cars. It's not just the fact that you've got a heavier beast under than you do with single seaters. It's also the fact that you know you're racing other people for position in a car where you can barely see the edges of it. It's a simulation racing. You don't have peripheral audio, so you can't hear people left and right unless you've got a really fancy sound system. So you can't expect that. Your wheel isn't a real wheel, so it's very different in terms of what it gives you back. So yeah, it's very difficult to do what these drivers have just done, and you've got to give them props for putting on the show that they've put on as we're less than a minute now before this session comes to an end. And we'll have a look at another replay here as we see some action at the start of the race. And again, you can see just how hard it is to go side by side with someone around this circuit because the barriers are so close. There's no runoff, as we're seeing just a little bit of a touch there, and the barriers stop everybody from getting through, which is a shame. And then, unfortunately, Van can't get going again because he's got to get the car turned around, and he can't just light the rear wheels up and spin it around like they do in Formula One. You've got to carefully move that out. So if these barriers cause a problem in race 2, it could spread the field out again. I'm not expecting that. I'm expecting this one to be a little bit more cautious around the first couple of laps, people to play the long game, and we will see a fair bit of battling towards the end of this next race. Track limits, that could cause an issue. We saw a couple of drivers with penalties. It looks like as you approach the tight and twisty section that it is those curbs as you're coming around to the little hairpin there. Yeah, it looks like the curbs are what are causing people to struggle a bit. But you know, it is all to play for, and we will have the end of the session. So that's the end of the warm up, and again we'll be going into race 2 ever so shortly. We are a little bit behind schedule, but not by much. It's only 7 minutes at the moment. Again, with that first race, putting the drivers a long way behind where they ought to have been. It shouldn't be too long until we get going now, as session has changed. So we're into the race session, and they will start forming up very shortly. But yeah, I really enjoyed that first race. I think there was some good battles. Teammates again showing that there is no quarter. There is no team orders. We're not going to respect, you know, the team colours. We're racing for position. It's war out there. We're going to practice together, and we're going to look after each other as much as we can that way. But in a race situation, it's on. It's to play for. But then you saw Asita just letting Ivano through. That was very nice of him to say, I'm going to overtake on track. I'm not interested in taking it away on a penalty basis. Will we see anything like that in race 2? What do you think? I'm not sure we'll see any penalties of that sort at the moment while teammates are chasing. But you don't know. You just don't know. As we're lining up. So you can see a lap counter there, lap 1 of 21. We're waiting for the formation as a couple of cars are still in the pits at the moment. And then once we are underway, I'm not sure if there's another intro. Broadcast. No, so there will be no intro. We're going to follow these cars all the way around as we see Carlos Fenno and Rodriguez on the top 2 spots there. And then we have the lights to start the formation lap as we follow Carlos Fenno. It is a very striking blue and orange liveries. Again, there's some wonderful liveries amongst these drivers. As we see a car coming through the pits there, obviously a missed start. And here we go for the grid order then. So we have pole position Carlos Fenno from Rodriguez in 2nd, Moretti in 3rd, and Danny in 4th for the Cheetah Racing team. And then in 5th place, we have Josito for the Fuenlabrada, Asaite in 6th place for Kamikaze, with Edo in 7th from Ivano. Edo, of course, losing out due to a DNF. And then we have Pablos in 9th, followed by Cabeza Speed, Robin Schuf in 11th, and alongside Fran Vinal, who had a good second half of that race despite getting caught up at the start. Shant Adamwich in 13th, followed by Zmonskaski in 14th, Patrix in 15th, and Baroni starting in 16th. Very similar to last time, but not following up at the back. That would be Walter Duarte for the Outcasts in 17th place. So that's your grid for race 2. Again, 17 laps, tight, twisty section of track here. But yeah, it's tight and twisty, very slow corners, very aggressive curbs. As Fenno now slows down the field, weaves the car, tries to get some temperature into the front tyres. He'll light up the rears, stamp on the brakes, try and get some temperature into the brakes as well. But what he doesn't want to be doing is sitting on the grid for 5 minutes. And yeah, these cars all lining up, all behaving, some of them weaving, some of them not weaving. You're seeing some very aggressive weaving from Rodriguez there. Yeah, it's looking absolutely fantastic as we line up at the moment. So here we are. Race 2. Fenno is pointing at Rodriguez. As we can just hear the engines rising. Where is the gantry? There you go. There they are then. Away they are for race 2. A slow start there for Danny as he's just dropping through the field a little bit, but it's a bit tight further back. But I don't think... Oh, we do. We have contact. Unlike before, though, it's not the entire field, but Cabezzo may have been involved in that. But Fenno and Rodriguez are away, followed by Moretti, Josete, and Acite. All they're lining up first, down to 5th place. This is a battle that could rage for a little while Fenno and Rodriguez sort themselves out position-wise, because while ever they're battling, the rest of the field will stay on their back bumper. So, here we go then. I'm not seeing Fenno using all of the track here, so he might just be trying to keep it neat, keep the car settled, try not to pick up a penalty. We saw what happened in race 1 with that penalty that cost him big. As we see, that was very close from Moretti. I thought there was going to be a chance. For a look down the inside. But again, it's so tight and twisty there that you just, if you do send it, you lose a lot of space from the car ahead, and the car behind gets right up onto the back of you. So this almighty run down the start-finish straight now as we come around his first turn. Not enough room down that start-finish straight for anybody to make a pass. Maybe they're all at top speed. But we did see a tow earlier on, but not this time. Not this time. As we're seeing Moretti now chasing. Moretti's still there. Josetti's still sort of there, but not quite as close as he was on the lap before. But I'm not seeing Acite. I think Acite has gone off. So Acite has fallen all the way down the field into 12th place now, so may have made a mistake. I did hear a clout with the barrier, so that may have been what cost him. So it's first down to 4th. All on the same section of track, although Josetti is starting to fall behind now. He is starting to fall behind ever so slightly. Meanwhile, Fenno is starting to pull a bit of a gap over Rodriguez right now, as we see a car there facing the wrong way. That'd be Patrick's in the Honda, just keeping out of the way while he gets that car going again. But Moretti now just looking at a bit of a larger gap. Fenno sets a new best lap time, 1:11.834. That's almost a qualifying lap. In fact, for most of the drivers, it was a qualifying lap. I think the personal best qualifying time was that a 1:11.7. So very, very fast from the Sad Bombs GSR Racing team there. What can Rodriguez say about that? They're 4/10, 3/10, 2/10. Rodriguez looks down the inside. That's going to put Fenno in towards the barrier there, but not quite. So Rodriguez saying, right, it's time for me to have a go now. I want a position. So this is teammates battling. It's touring cars. It's all on as we're seeing a car there getting out of the way, trying to stay as far away from the leaders as possible. And I believe that may have been Baroni or Adamwich. I'm not sure which driver it was, but look at Rodriguez. Look at Rodriguez trying to find a way through. He's trying to think about switchbacks, insides, outsides, on the bumper at the chicane. And this has allowed Moretti to close right back up to the two of them. And look at Josetti now. Josetti in 4th place is thinking, okay, well, all 3 of these guys are scrapping. I'm going to have a go. So Moretti looks at the inside of Rodriguez. That's not enough room for him to make a move. He's diving down the inside on the brakes. He's got the space. If he can hold the car and get the traction, he might have just put Rodriguez behind, and he has. But now Moretti is setting himself up for an almighty world of pressure because Rodriguez wants that place back. Meanwhile, look behind. Wtcc is right behind these two now, but Fenno is just eking out a little gap. He's thinking, thank you guys. You guys battle, I'm getting away. Moretti is doing well to hold off Rodriguez, though. Rodriguez was challenging Fenno, and that allowed Moretti just to sneak up the inside at that first turn, as we see clouds of smoke coming from that front left, as I've got to be careful here not to infringe on track limits. You don't want a penalty, as we're looking very, very close to Moretti now. So Rodriguez is thinking about, where can I get past? This little chicane coming up, is Moretti going to keep it nice and clean? Let's not clout any of the barriers, as he does. And that's going to allow Rodriguez, but I think Rodriguez touched the back of Moretti, which he didn't want to do because that's going to cost him speed. Moretti defends the inside line, which means that if Rodriguez is going to get past, oh, he might have a switchback here. Not quite enough to get down the inside, unfortunately. So Rodriguez is going to have to sit behind for a little while again. Meanwhile, Fenno has pulled out 2.5 seconds now. Wtcc seems to have dropped off the back ever so slightly, 1.25 seconds back, so he may have made a mistake somewhere. We didn't see that on circuit, as Rodriguez is looking at the outside here. That's too tight of a corner to get around the outside there, Rodriguez. Moretti says, you know what, I'm really making you work for this. So Rodriguez, where can he find the move? Where's it going to be? Moretti's doing a very good job to keep him behind at the moment. But as we see, tight and twisty section now. Keep it out of the barriers if you can. Rodriguez gives Moretti a little push. That's going to unsettle him. It's going to make him feel a bit more pressure as we come down. Oh, and Fenno's made a mistake. So Fenno has dropped all the way back into the clutches of Moretti now. And if Moretti avoids the wall, Rodriguez is looking for that, trying to make sure he doesn't go into the back of Moretti, and he avoids it. That is good. So Moretti is looking at the back of Fenno now. This would be interesting if Moretti gets Fenno before Rodriguez gets Moretti. What do you think is going to happen? Get involved in the comments. Get involved on social media. We're not seeing any moves at the moment, but look how close. We'll have the live timing. So I can tell you that Moretti is chasing down Fenno. Rodriguez is chasing down. Oh, there's a bit of a touch there as Moretti just gets a little bit sideways. That's going to unsettle the car. Rodriguez looking at the outside there again, but I'm not sure you can go around the outside there, Rodriguez. You're going to have to send it down the inside somewhere. But where's Moretti going to allow for that? We've seen he defends very well. He's in the barrier there, and then scrubbing the tyre. Plumes of smoke coming from that front left as we're now into the tricky section. Be careful not to get a penalty. Rodriguez is looking at the inside there, thinking, how can I give him more pressure? As we're looking down the inside again, a little bit of a touch once more. That's going to unsettle Moretti, allow Rodriguez down the inside, but Moretti's got the speed. He says, nope, I'm going to take the chicane. I'll get in there first. Thank you very much. Meanwhile, Fenno's gone. The battling between these two has allowed Fenno to push on and eke out 1.5 seconds again. Let's hope he doesn't make a mistake and fall back into the clutches of these two once more. Meanwhile, Wtcc is catching up as well. We're seeing Rodriguez just rolling off the brakes a little, trying to close up to the back of Moretti, thinking, can I carry the speed and get down the inside? But not this time. Is showing himself in the mirrors. This mirror, that mirror, putting the driver off, or at least trying to, but Moretti is doing such a sterling job to defend here. As Rodriguez, ooh, that was a bit of a punt there. He probably shouldn't be tapping the driver on the back that hard going into a corner, but we'll leave that for the stewards to decide. I'm not a steward. But Rodriguez is really, really fighting for a way past now, taking a little bit more curb, trying to close up a little bit quicker for his next attempt. As we're seeing Moretti just settle back into it. He's got a little bit of space. He can be a bit smoother. He can try and catch back up to Fenno, of which he is doing. The gap. Did he? Oh, and there's a mistake. Moretti went deep. This is going to allow Rodriguez to have a bit of a tow, but then there was another car in the way, so Rodriguez couldn't pull out alongside. Meanwhile, Fenno made a mistake as well, and Moretti is right on the back of Fenno, so this could be both cars, Moretti and Rodriguez, both passing Fenno, and Fenno down into third from first. What on earth is that? And Rodriguez and Fenno are side by side right now. Joseto just in the distance there as Moretti's in the lead. Fenno and Rodriguez side by side, not giving each other enough space. Not giving each other enough space at all. And that was in the barrier. Both cars still going. Moretti now just eking a little bit of time out, thinking he's got a bit of breathing room. He can settle back down, let the sweat dry up a little bit and continue going. But we're seeing that Fenno just scrubbing the wall there, losing a bit of time. Maybe that's a bit of frustration from making too many mistakes. But now Rodriguez is right back up on Moretti and challenging for position. Meanwhile, Zeti has closed right back up onto these three. As we've seen Rodriguez and Fenno once again having a punt at each other, getting down the inside saying, right, I'm having this. But no, denied. You can't overtake here. Moretti now under real pressure from Rodriguez, and Rodriguez is under so much pressure from Fenno. Meanwhile, Josetti in the distance there, lurking like a little shark, circling a yacht as we see Rodriguez outbreaks himself. That gives a position back to Fenno, who almost had Moretti on exit there as they're giving each other a little bit of a touch. Oh, and dear me, Moretti's off. Oh, all off. Oh no, Fenno's in the wall, Moretti's in the wall. Josetti goes through, Rodriguez goes through. That is unfortunate for all cars involved. I saw the touch happening. I thought they might back off and let each other settle out. But no, Moretti was punted around into the side of Fenno. And that puts Moretti down into fourth place. And he's a long way back, 12 seconds off the front now, which is unfortunate. We might not see him again for the rest of the race. But he might get back onto them if Josetti can really put a dent in Fenno's pace. Rodriguez has gone 2 seconds over Josetti HD for the Fuenlabrada racing team, and yes, had Bombas GSR racing team could be looking at a 1-2 here if Fenno can cleanly get past Josetti HD. Of course, I don't know what's going to happen post race. The lap 9 was a bit of a disaster there. I don't know what happened. I don't know what caused them to go into each other. It is such a shame that it ended that way. I was hoping it to carry on for at least a few more laps before the faster drivers got ahead and cemented their position. But Fenno is looking ahead at the back of Josetti, and we're seeing Rodriguez there as well, not far ahead. So we're looking at a replay here, I believe. We're going to see the start and try and figure out what happened a little further back if we can. So we see bottom left of the screen, one of the Sad Bombers team cars gets over the front of another car, and then it all kicks off behind us. They hit the barriers and spin around. That is such a shame. But nonetheless, we have Edo back up into 6th. I believe he was involved in that initial contact. He's chasing down Pablos, who is not far behind Moretti after Moretti's incident. Such a shame. Such a shame. But nonetheless, Rodriguez isn't really driving away with it now. Josetti is still a second and a half behind. Fenno is still half a second behind Josetti. Are these drivers just neutralizing it a little bit to allow Moretti to catch up a little bit, just to try and avoid any penalties? I'm not sure about that. I wouldn't think that would be the case. So here we go then. We're looking at Josetti HD, and we might cut out for just a second, for my stream at least, and we're seeing a little bit of pressure now as Fenno is really on the attack. But meanwhile, Rodriguez is less than a second back to Josetti now, as we're seeing another car. Oh no, that neutralizes the race completely. A HLZ car. I'm not sure. Was that Duarte? I'm not sure. That might have been Zmansky, just causing the leaders to stomp on the brakes and effectively stop to try and get past him. That has changed the gaps completely. as we get the 10-lap warning. Fenno now down the inside of Wtcc HD. Can he make that move stick? Wtcc HD will have more speed down towards the next corner because the inside line is compromised and they do settle out again. But Rodriguez is saying, I'm having this position one way or another. It's just a matter of when. Meanwhile, look at Rodriguez. Rodriguez is struggling to keep that gap from Wtcc, who's now found all of the pace that he needs to challenge for this first place. We've seen a few challengers so far. We've seen Moretti challenging for the lead. We've seen Fenno challenging for the lead. Rodriguez is in the lead, and now Wtc's challenging for the lead. As we see just a bit of a squiggle there from Fenno, just trying to find all the space that he can find to try and get past Wtc's car. Wtc is not going slow by any means, but Fenno feels that he can go faster. So he wants to get past as quickly as possible, and then Fenno wants to go chasing down Rodriguez, who has kept that gap at the moment back to Wtc at around about 8 tenths, 9 tenths. It's flicking back and forth. We're not seeing anywhere that Fenno has got a real advantage where there is room for him to stick a car down. All the advantage seems to be around the tight and twisty sections of the track where you just can't put your car, because we're seeing Wtcc HD getting a fabulous run out of these corners, absolutely great around the apexes, following Rodriguez to the best of his ability, and of course that's making him faster. That's keeping him all the way up there amongst the front runners, as the gap to Moretti, as we're seeing a very weird artifact on stream there. I'm not sure they actually went that wide. We're seeing Moretti closing down. The gap's under 8 seconds to these three now. But we're seeing a little bit of a gap eking out there too. Rodriguez as Fenno's down the inside, and there's a car on the left. So, Wtcc manages to keep it. He manages to keep it alongside and retain the position for the chicane. But that puts Fenno in the slipstream all the way down to the first corner. Has Fenno got the ability to pick up all that speed as Pablos picks up a penalty? That might promote Edo. I'm not sure they're close enough, as Fenno's now down the inside, and that's a job done. Unless Wtcc can come back for the next corner, that might be job done. Fenno has got second place then. So Wtcc wants to try and keep on the back of him. Try and get right up to the back and chase all the way up to Rodriguez, because that gap did extend a little bit up to about 1.4 seconds. Wtcc dropping a little bit, almost a second back now, as the timing indicator does indicate that, as we're seeing not as much smoke coming from the front left of Rodriguez and Fenno, but those two are close enough for a battle now. Wtcc might be out of this for a moment, but we're seeing a challenge. We're seeing a challenge from Fenno on Rodriguez, and that's a move done. Rodriguez made the mistake on the brakes, couldn't get to the apex, and that allowed Fenno to take that position. And Wtcc had the best seat in the house to sit there and watch that unfold. But with that mistake, that's allowed Fenno to eke out an almighty gap. There's over a second between them now, and Wtcc is close to Rodriguez, as you see him close ever slightly on the brakes there, as they're coming to the concertina effect on the brakes, get really close to each other, and Moretti doesn't seem to be catching now. Something's happened, and he's settled at around about 8 seconds, so we don't know whether he'll get onto the back of this group before the end of the race, as we're looking at Vinal now, looking at the back of the Kamikaze racing car of Ivan. And this is a battle on circuit for 7th place. And again, Edo is quite a way ahead of these guys, trying to make up some positions after that first lap incident. But Vinal has been chasing down Ivan for a while now. And with just about a second between them, this could be a battle that is coming into play. It could be a battle that happens in a few laps, or as we've seen a little bit earlier on, and amongst other drivers, Ivan could make a mistake and bring Vinal right into play. So this is something to watch for sure. Meanwhile, am I looking at that right? Pablos is right on the back of Moretti. I'm not sure whether Pablos has served that penalty just yet, but that's half a second between them as we move on board with Pablos looking at the back of Moretti's car. This might be the reason why Moretti hasn't managed to close up any closer to Wtcc, because of this battle with Pablos. This could be what's slowing Moretti down. As we're seeing, Pablos is looking a little bit wider on the entry to the corners there. Moretti is not quite as wide. Look at all the space that Pablos is able to take, and that's allowing him to close all the way up to the back of the Kamikaze racing team car. And this is a very... Oh, as we see, Pablos clouts the barrier there. Not what he wanted to do. He's offline now, but so is Moretti. As we see plumes of smoke coming from that front left as Pablos closes up almighty on the brakes and the car balance through that little complex as we see him alongside. I thought that was going to be a move then. I thought that was going to be the move. But no, not this time. Pablos sits back in, tries to get a better exit there, but just touches the barrier. Might not be that much of an effect as he will be in the tow. Again, we're not seeing the tow make much of an effect. As we see, Pablos does come in for his penalty, so he hadn't served his penalty by that time. Didn't manage to get Moretti before the penalty. As we're seeing a few of the cars who are DNFs in the pits at the moment. So we've got Schuf and Patrick's. Unfortunate DNF at the moment. Brody is one lap down as well. That's, yeah, unfortunate incident that we saw the leaders pass. And then Smansky is down there in the pits at the moment. That was the car that was waiting to go. That might have been a stop and go penalty. As we're looking at Cabeza speed now. And then we see here, this is the battle that you saw earlier for first place, where Moretti sent it down the inside of Rodriguez, got into second place, and then started chasing down Fenno, while Wtcc was catching behind. So much fun for these drivers to be in this kind of a position. And we're seeing that, you know, Rodriguez not giving up the fight. Yes, he's been passed, but really pressuring Moretti there. That was a fantastic bit of racing. So, Cabeza Speed is looking at the back of Duarte right now, as Duarte is just tapping the brakes ever so slightly, trying to keep the front end in check there. Oh, and he's wide, and Cabeza's gone around as well. I'm not sure what caused that for both drivers, but I'm not sure. Cabeza's speed's lost a lot of places there as he's behind Adam, which now, unfortunately, he's gone around all by himself there at the same time as Duarte was going too wide to make those corners. So Duarte may have lost that position if Cabeza Speed had held it, but that's not the way it played out as we're seeing the leaders streaming through. So that will be Cabeza Speed down a lap as well. So unfortunately, I've just lost my view and we are back. So we're looking at the intervals at the moment. We've got a couple of battles just on the brink. So this one for Cabeza Speed, we're expecting him to catch up to the back of Adam, which we have a little bit further up the field. Ivan and Vinal, that's still closing up. It's not there yet, but we've got to keep an eye on that gap. It's around about 7/8 tenths right now. Rodriguez and Fenno around about a second, but Rodriguez has just got a penalty, which could bring Wtcc right back into the mix here. So keep your eye on where Rodriguez comes back out. If it's a drive-through, I'm not sure it's a drive-through, whether it's... Yep, he's in the pits. He's in the pits. Wtc's time is dropping, and Wtcc gets that second place. And Rodriguez comes back out in fourth place because Moretti has got back past. So, Fenno. Looks like Fenno might be winning this race now. Unless he makes a mistake, unless he gains a penalty. We've seen track limits cause all sorts of problems. As we're seeing Cabeza Speed now right on the back of Aaron, which, as he's in that tow for the start, we're seeing Rodriguez looking for an overtake on Moretti. And again, there's contact. Once again, Rodriguez puts Moretti into the wall, just as they did on lap 9. And that, of course, gives a position to Rodriguez. Moretti says, you know what, I don't want to be in the wall anymore, you just go. So I think that's a sensible decision there from Moretti, and Rodriguez is now going to chase after Wtcc. 2.5 is the gap. Moretti's closed up quite a bit, and we see Aronrich going into the wall there. He has lost the place to Cabeza Speed, as has Duarte. We didn't see what happened there. That may have been a mistake from the Outcasts. We don't know for sure. I wonder whether we'll find out at the end of the race. But yeah, we have Rodriguez chasing down Wtcc. I'm not seeing much of an improvement on the gap there. And Ivan has made a mistake as well, which has allowed Vinal and Aceite both to get past. So he's sitting in 9th place now, with Danny right on his tail. Danny is about half a second back from Ivan now, so that's something we could be looking at. In the meantime, I'm going to keep an eye on that battle for 2nd place, as that heats up in intensity. And we have Pablos does seem to be catching Moretti ever so slightly. As my stream just lags out ever so slightly for just a second there. Now Edo is a little behind Pablos, but not catching enough, as we see. Was that a lead driver getting past Adam Witch there? I'm not entirely sure. I don't see a kamikaze driver anywhere near him. As we see a change for position there, Ivan and Danny just changing positions. As Danny appears to have made a mistake, he's dropped about a second to the car in front now. As we jump on board. So this is the battle. Looks like it's the battle for 8th place, because we've got... I can't actually see Aceite up there, so it'll be for 9th place. Ivan, Danny, and Cabeza Speed. Where's Cabeza Speed? He's a bit further back, so no, just the 2 cars. The car behind, the Honda behind, may have been one of the outcasts. Cabeza Speed or Adam Witch. May have been Adam Witch, who we were on board with before, to be honest, because we did see the kamikaze car come through. As we're seeing, Danny did lose quite a lot of bit of time in that mistake, and he's closed right back up to Ivan now. So the gap of about half a second, that's enough to get a tow. He's now going to send it all the way down the straight. Can he get it down the inside? He can. So this is the final lap now. Last chance for Danny to do anything as he hooks that inside corner. Fenno is 20 seconds ahead of Wtcc. As we see, the gap for Wtcc and Rodriguez is down at 2/10. So Carlos Fenno is going to come around, take your win. What's happening in 2nd place though? As we see, Moretti comes across the line. 2nd place is all over. That is the finish. So unfortunately, it doesn't look like Rodriguez managed to putting Wtcc into 2nd place. Moretti in 4th, with Pablos in 5th. We're still watching this battle unfold. They're on the final lap, Danny and Ivan. I believe Edo has finished in 6th after coming back after that first incident. Vinal in 7th. Aceite in 8th. Ivan is still battling for position now with Danny 01. Danny 01 in the tow as they now come down towards the line. I don't think Danny's close enough to try and make up this position as the line's approaching. It's close. It's real close. But Ivan just takes 9th place away from Danny 01. Cabeza Speed in 11th, a lap down, as well as Adam Witch in 12th, Duarte in 13th, Szymanski in 14th, Baroni in 15th, and not finishing the race, Robin Shuve and Patrix in 17th. So, chat, that was exciting. That was tense, and I am sweating a little bit as a commentator. So how these drivers feel, I do not know, but we will get their thoughts right after the very next ad break, which I believe is coming up right now. Oh, sorry, here we have confirmed results first. So we have Carlos Fenno from Wtcc, 20 seconds there. That's a very long gap. From Rodriguez, who was almost in 2nd place, but not quite. We have Moretti in 4th, followed by Pablos in 5th. Reynaldo Ido, good recovery in 6th place from Fran Vinal in 7th. Aceite in 8th, and Ivan just holding on to 9th place from Danny in 10th place. So that's your top 10. From there, we have Cabeza Speed finishing in 11th after a few mistakes, with Shan Armwich in 12th. Walter Duarte in 13th for the Outcasts. Szymanski, we saw him make a couple of mistakes, so back down in 14th. And then, of course, David Baroni bringing up the rear in 15th place. Unfortunately, not finishing were Robin Schufel's classified 16th and Patrick's in 17th. So that was your race 2. That was, like I say, tense, sweaty for me, struggling for breath, a lot to talk about. We're going to catch the podium finishers in just a moment. We're going to run an ad break and then we'll get into post race. So stick with us and we'll speak to you in just a second. Okay, everybody, thank you for sticking with us for a very exciting 2 races there. We will be joined by a couple of drivers. We have Fenno up first as a contender for the first race and a winner in the second race there. That was an insane battle. So if we can bring Fenno into the chat. Hi there, Carlos Fenno. Thank you for joining us after what must have been a very, very intense race 2. By the end of it, you did walk away. So just walk us through how that felt.
The race was very, very thick. Sorry, at the front because we were like we were fighting Pablo, Marete, Josete, and me at the beginning, and until the end where their tires dropped a little bit more than mine, and I could make a higher pace than them. I finally won this main race. I'm happy with the result.
Yeah, we did see that your pace was far superior at the second half of that race. But in the beginning, it was looking like it could go any one of 4 ways. I mean, the battle with Rodriguez and Moretti, that brought Josetti into the mix as well. And we're looking at some footage now of the battles there. I mean, at that point in time, were you worried that you might not get the win?
I was managing the win. I thought that I couldn't make a big gap in the first 10 laps because of the draft, and you can easily, I think, save more tires at the front. But I made a mistake and I lost the position. However, I in the first laps I could manage great the tires to have more pace than them at the end. Hopefully it went well, but we had like a crash with Mareche and the Chanchu. But anyways, we had lucky that we could finish there.
Yeah, we did see the incident. Actually, we were heavily involved on the action that you guys were providing. It was absolutely glorious. So thank you for that. But in terms of where this puts you in the championship standings and looking at the next round, how are you feeling? Do you think that the next round will be as difficult in the opening laps or as easy to win as we saw in the second half?
To be honest, I don't know. I never drove that Nastorp. Nastorp, I think, is the next track at Sweden. I never drove there, but let's see. Let's see how it goes. If there is a big straight to overtake, will be more similar to Severin than this. Let's see.
Fantastic stuff. And we've just actually seen the live replay of the incident with Moretti and Rodriguez. If the track was a little wider, that might have been avoided. I mean, the barriers are so tight here.
So much pressure.
As we saw, the track limits. Meanwhile,
are really
Josetti in the distance there,
as well,
lurking like a little shark. Did you pick up a penalty for track limits? As we see Rodriguez outbreaks himself. That gives position back to Fenno, who almost had Moretti on exit there as they're giving each other a little bit of a touch.
the chicane twice.
Oh, and dear
I
me, Ritz
received
is off.
a
Oh,
penalty
off.
for that. But anyways, it didn't cost for me any position. I was in third position at that moment. I had to make the drive through. I lost the position with cabeza speed, but I recovered it back. Anyways, I think I could fight with Marete for the P2 at the first race, but anyways, a P3 and a P1 are really good points for the championship.
Fantastic racing and very well done for today. And good luck for the next round. And I believe we can move on to the next driver now, which I believe should be Joseta HD. As we're just flicking around in the room, and we're now joined by Joseta HD. Josete, very, very well done in that second race. I understand the first race didn't go as planned, but that second race, you were in amongst it for quite a long time. I mean, how did that feel for you?
Yes, good race, good pace, satisfied with the result.
Fantastic. So, I mean, in terms of the pace, you were catching the leaders when they were battling, not so much when you were by yourself. At any point, did you ever think that you had a shot for the win? Because you were challenging Rodriguez for a good amount of time. I mean, did you think you could have first place?
Yes, yes.
Fantastic. So, in terms of managing the tires, managing your car, because when you're battling, the tires get really hot and you've got to compromise your line and they get dirt. Were there any difficulties for you in amongst that scrap?
Very, very difficult. The wheels is horrible.
Well, you've done very, very well today. I've enjoyed watching the battles that you ended up in. Going into the next race, how are you feeling? Are we expecting a similar performance or a stronger performance?
Good feeling for the next race. Yes, yes.
Brilliant stuff. Well, thank you for joining us, Josete. We'll let you go and have some more fun, as I believe we're joined by a few more drivers. I'm not sure which one we're going to next. Is it Moretti that we've got lined up? I don't think we've got Rodriguez with us, have we? Lovely. So we're going to have a chat with Moretti. Again, one of the kamikaze drivers had quite a good race early on, but unfortunately was collected by Rodriguez in that incident. But Moretti is with us now. Moretti, well done on the results today. Unfortunately, race two didn't go to plan, but it was an almighty scrap nonetheless. I mean, just tell us how you feel about that.
Yeah, first of all, congratulates Carlos for the race. He has a great pace today. And yeah, I'm very happy with the second position in the race one and before in the race two. Because when I wake up today, I didn't expectate that result, and yes, very happy.
Great stuff. So, walk us through the the first sort of 10 laps of that second race, because you, Carlos Feno, Rodriguez, and Josete were all challenging for first place. I mean, was there any time where you thought you could have got first place? Did you expect it to end in such a dramatic fashion? Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, in the start, Carlos, me, Pablo, and Josete make a great start. So we open a gap for 6-7 seconds for the fifth. And yeah, that fight was insane. I mean, me overtake Pablo, Pablo overtaking Carlos, me overtaking Carlos. In lap 9, Pablo touched me and I went to the wall. I think that is a penalty. I will reclaim, but the stewards will watch the replay and we will valorate. I don't think so. The 10 laps was very insane.
Yeah, we really did enjoy them. I mean, to be honest, my voice is going to be sore for a couple of days, I think, after that, because it was so fantastic to watch. So thank you very much for joining us, Moretti. I mean, one final question is the next race that we go to. Carlos Fenoli says he hasn't done any laps there. Have you done any laps there? How are you feeling going into the next round?
In the next round, I think we have the same pace to that race. So if we can do the same result there, is a great. So if we can do a podium in any race, that will be a massive result.
Well, very well done for today. Thank you for the entertainment and good luck for the next round, Moretti. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you guys for the stream. Great, really great job. Thanks.
It's our pleasure. So there you are, everybody. That's a chat with a few of the drivers there. I'm not sure if we have anybody else in the waiting room right now. We will see if anybody else wants to come along for a chat, but I have just got to say that, you know, for a difficult race, as you're seeing on screen, some of the highlights from that second race, absolutely fantastic. We saw a similar incident in race 2 as you saw in race 1, where a lot of the drivers come together before the first braking zone. That set a lot of drivers back out of position, but everybody kept the head down. Everybody kept it focused, did what they could. We saw the top 5 drivers walk away with it as you're seeing that incident unfold on your screen right now. And then that allows Rodriguez, Fenno, Moretti, Josete, and Ivan, I think, just about gets through that first incident. And you can see that the cars are 2x2. Everybody else is going into that incident and trying to get through as cleanly as possible. But the top 5, they all get away. Fenno, Rodriguez, and Moretti then start to pull a small gap, but then they start to battle. And this brings Josete right up to the back of it. And Josete eventually gets into second place and starts challenging for that win. So if anybody's in Twitch chat, just tell us what you think about that, because I thought that was absolutely amazing to watch. I don't think we have anybody else in the waiting room to have a chat with about that, but just look at the footage here on your screen. We're seeing a car on the inside getting approached by a car on the left, and just a bit of contact sends them all the way around into the barriers as cars stream past, and then that's the road blocked for everybody else, and cars are now waiting to get past. So that's very, very unfortunate. Ronaldo Edo was the car involved there, first into the barriers. We're looking on board with another car involved. I can't quite recall who it was. I believe it was Daniel 1, just into the side. Yeah, into the side of Ronaldo Edo there, and it's just a case of where the car's going to stop. We saw the kamikaze driver involved on the left there. See if I can work out what driver it was. So again, being squeezed from the right, being squeezed from the left, nowhere for Danny to go, who of course then ends up in the side of Ronaldo Edo, who of course blocks the track for the kamikaze driver, and then subsequently blocks the track for everybody else as there's contact everywhere, as it's Asiite, who did actually make a fantastic recovery, as he's not too badly impacted by the crashes. Ivan just comes into the side of Daniel 1, and then into the back of him comes Pablo, and everybody else is either waiting or collecting cars. So yeah, that did stretch the field out a little bit, but that's racing. Sometimes it happens, and you just got to kind of deal with it. As you can see, 2 cars blocking the track until Pablo says, "Come on, move, I need to get past here." So yeah, that's an unfortunate incident. And on these tracks with very tight barriers, there's nowhere else to go. You can't reverse over a gravel trap. You can't get onto the grass and get out of the way. You've got to wait until everybody's gone before you can get the car moving again. And as you can see there, it is just painful as a driver to sit there sideways to the track before you get going, and the track's empty now. Everybody's racing ahead, and unfortunately, that's where you've got to be sometimes, just making your way back up on your own. But, you know, he did catch up. He did get into some battles towards the end there. But as you can just see, from when the last car goes, it's quite a long time. Edo luckily managed to get going a little bit sooner, being a bit closer to the end of that battle. But you can see here from the start, just as it all unfolds. So Edo made a really good start there. You know, to get all the way alongside Danny, as we're just watching the camera pan and look at the grid straight on. And that's what the cameraman would have been looking at, thinking, this is a wonderful shot, just before it all kicked off. So there you are, from the spectator's point of view. It would be nice to be trackside again, as I'm sure that many of you are looking forward to seeing this point of view in person. I know I certainly am. But for these drivers, it doesn't matter whether it's real, it doesn't matter whether it's virtual. Racing is racing. And what we saw today was racing of the highest quality. Despite this first lap incident, I mean, we saw it in both races. It was the same sort of incident. It's R-Factor 2, so I don't know whether you've got proximity indicators. I don't know whether you've got spotters. But it's just one of those things. It's racing. Sometimes it doesn't go to plan. Sometimes it does. For Wtcc, I don't think that was to plan. I don't think he expected to be challenging for the lead at that point in time. But definitely a strong contender for that third place position. You know, he got a very good result in race 1 due to a penalty from Fenno. But again, this front end of the grid is extremely tight, and you can see the cars there. That little screenshot graphic, just how bunched up they are. And you've got 3 cars from Kamikaze up near the front. You've got 3 cars from Sabomba's GSR Racing. I'm saying all this wrong. I do apologize. They're all up towards the front of the grid together, which means obviously team practice is taking part. These guys are learning together, learning from each other as well. But then just a little bit further back, in amongst the middle of those 6 cars, you have one of the cars from the Fuenlabrada racing team, which is, of course, Wtcc. And then you have one of the Cheetah Racing team, which is of course, Danny 01. Their teammates are a little bit further back down the grid, which means they're probably not getting as much practice together, but they are getting some practice together. So, you know, we're seeing that throughout the race playing out, that having the team practice makes you faster, but then it also brings your teammate into play as well. And we saw that Fenno and Rodriguez side by side for most of it. Moretti getting in on the action. Unfortunately, Asiite had problems. Ivan had problems, but I'm sure Asiite had a clean race. He'd have been right up there with his teammate as well. So the next round is coming up next Saturday. It is not long until we go live for the next race. Again, you will be joining us from just about 10 to 11 as we start the countdown for the next race. And I'm really excited because this race sets a precedent now for the rest of the streams. We have Nutstop, a track I'm not familiar with, a track a few of the other drivers by the sound of it are not familiar with, but some of them have done some practice. Some of them say they've got a good pace there already, as you've heard from Moretti there. Let us know what you think. Join us on social media. Tell us what you think. Get involved. Follow the channels and share them. And we will see you in a little under a week now for round 3 on the 26th of June. And we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you, everybody. We'll sign you out there. Bye-bye.